Hi, and welcome to episode 36 of New, Old, and Songs Untold. I am your host, Nick, joined with my co host, Anna. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Today, we close a chapter on 2020.
Finally.
What a crazy year it was. We're doing our top 10 favorite songs from 2020.
Yep, so songs that came out in 2020. Some of them I'm pretty sure came out in 2020, but they might be kind of close.
I did double check a bunch of mine, and some of them I had on my
Yeah.
list originally were 2019, which were kind of crazy.
Yeah,
So I thought they were 2020.
This year has just been like a blur, so. But most of them should be songs that actually came out in the year 2020, hopefully. But yeah, since, I don't know, do we have a control list for today?
I couldn't find anything that was that was good. Unless you just want to look on Ranker real quick to see if there's
I might
one.
check it out, because I'm sure there's been like some type of list.
There's gotta be. I don't think Billboard's, but theirs would be like an end of the year list. They might have had one out by
They
now.
have one. It's mostly like pop songs and stuff, which is not that surprising. But let's see.
Well, I guess while you look, did you have any expectations going into this?
In this episode, I mean, I knew exactly what songs I was going to pick because I've listened to a lot of new music that I fell completely in love with this year. So, yeah, I wasn't too surprised at any of my choices or the stuff I found because I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I've been listening to, and I love this music. So,
There you go.
What about you?
You see, I was the complete opposite, where I don't typically listen to that much new music. Tried to do a little more this year, but didn't get to too much of it. So I wasn't really sure how to feel about my list. I think I kind of ended up going with a theme of a list accidentally. So
Gotcha,
I guess I'll
yeah.
talk about that when I get more into the music.
So I have a list. I just peeked at the number one to see what it was, and it's ridiculous, but I think we'll use it because it has a few different kinds of music. And
Perfect. All right. Well, then we can just hop right into the top 10.
So the number 10 for this list, it's off of dig.com. I don't really know what that is, but is Physical by Dua Lipa.
All right. What is your number 10?
My number 10 is Circle the Drain by Soccer Mommy from her album Color Theory, which came out this year, obviously. Have you ever heard of Soccer Mommy? She has 2 albums out, so she's getting pretty popular though recently. But yeah, the song's just kind of about having depressive episodes and kind of withdrawing into isolation and feeling like you're constantly spiraling back down into that feeling. And I really love the intro. It has kind of almost a country sounding guitar intro.
Okay.
It kind of sounds like Avril Lavigne's Complicated
Does
in
it?
the beginning, yeah. That's instantly
funny.
what my brain went to. But yeah, it's it gets kind of into a very low key bedroom pop kind of indie sound, and on the surface appears very calming, but lyrically the content is a lot darker than that, and she has a really cool sound. So that's Circle the Drain for my number 10.
All right. My number 10 is Rearrange by Mountjoy Rearrange Us by Mountjoy.
I was gonna say it's Rearrange Us.
Sorry. Off their album Rearrange Us. This was probably my favorite album of the year, I think.
I listened to that album religiously.
Yeah. So the songs are written by Matt Quinn. I think the song is simple. It's such a simple song, lyrically, but it's an upbeat, sad tone kind of song, which I think that's why I liked it so much. That's a lot of their album.
Yeah.
Is
very. It's the easiest listening.
It is
indie ever.
It's and it was probably one of my favorite albums I listened to this year, for sure. And this was I think not their most popular one. I have another one. I have 2 on my list from that album.
I've got one on my list from that album as well.
So yeah, it's actually really simply lyrically simply song, but it's really easy to listen to and definitely my kind of music for sure.
Yeah.
So that was Rearrange Us by Mountjoy.
All right.
On to number 9.
So number 9 for the list is Safa Era by Bad Bunny. Have you ever heard of that?
I think so, yeah.
I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly because I've never heard of this song, but it's featuring a bunch of people also. But that is number 9. So my number 9 is Impossible Weight by Deep Sea Diver featuring Sharon Van Etten, and that's off their album also called Impossible Weight.
Okay.
The whole album kind of has this indie leaning more towards rock sound, so it's a little bit heavier than some of the other stuff on my list. But I just love the vocals on this. I mean, Sharon Van Etten is like one of my favorite artists, so the fact that she was on this as well just made it that much more amazing. But the vocals are very precise and kind of sorrowful, but they're also like really raw.
Okay.
And it's basically about not being able to carry on with all this like pressure all the time, and that's the impossible
I
weight.
feel like that's a theme for 2020.
Yeah, honestly, very 2020.
Yes.
But yeah, it sounds almost like an anthem to me. It's very like empowering in a way, and I love that song. So that is Impossible Weight for my number 9.
All right, my number 9 is Without Me by Halsey, off of her album Maniac, came out earlier. Actually, I think it was in May. This song was originally actually released as a single in 2018, so this is kind of cheating, but it was released this year off. The album was released this year.
Oh, okay.
This album is written by a bunch of people, or song is written with her, obviously, and Justin Timberlake, Timbaland, and a few other people.
So a bunch of people.
Help write this song. It's the song, I think it's probably her most popular one off the album.
Yeah.
I think it really is like a really emotionally raw sound, and I think a lot of her sounding, she sounds very like raw, I think sometimes. And I think this song, because it's a very personal song about her ex, I think G-Eazy. After he cheated on her, basically, she wrote this song.
Yeah.
So it's a very like personal song to her, and it's actually a very emotional song, even though it became one of probably like the more popular pop songs.
Yeah.
And I was surprised how much I did actually like this song.
I like Halsey. I liked like her earlier albums, but yeah.
It is very pop, but I also think it's a very emotionally like raw song. And how she sounds, she has a really good voice, I think, and she really showed it in this song particularly. So that was my number 9, Without Me by Halsey.
Nice.
What are you on for number 8?
Number 8 for the list is Rain on Me by Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga.
Okay, I forgot because that came out in like January.
Yeah, it was very early 2020. So
we kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
When the Lady Gaga episode.
When we did that episode, yeah. But that doesn't surprise me. It's a pretty popular song. So my number 8 is Zombie Girl by Adrienne Laniker, and that's off her album Songs. So this is the main singer from the band Big Thief. I don't know if you've heard of them, but I talk about them quite a lot.
Okay.
They're probably my favorite band, like ever. So it obviously has really incredible lyrical content because she's really just an amazing like songwriter in general. But it's actually about an episode of like sleep paralysis that she had, and she saw like a hallucination of a zombie girl, which I just think is such an interesting idea for a song. Yeah. Like I didn't know it was about that until I really like read the lyrics. But yeah, and it's very calming and simple. It's almost the whole album is acoustic guitar, just her playing acoustic guitar, and this song specifically has like birds chirping in the background, which sound pretty cool. And yeah, I just love the whole like folk sound with her very coarse vocals. I feel like she could probably make any song ever, and I'd probably love it. So, but this is one that I definitely like this year. And that is Zombie Girl for my number 8.
All right, my number 8 was on my Spotify. I think top 5 songs listened to most this year.
Yeah.
It's Deathbed, Coffee for Your Head.
Never heard of it.
I'm not gonna say these names right. It's like Pofu and Bia Bad Doobie.
Sure.
If you've heard, you probably heard it.
Okay.
But so the original song is by the second artist. I said I'm not gonna repeat her name because it's long and I don't want to do. But it's just called Deathbed, Coffee for Your Head. Basically, Pofu sampled it, essentially.
Oh, okay.
They did a collab to the song and really propelled it. I think he's a Canadian rapper, and I think she's from London. But it's kind of like he is reminiscing on memories of like a supposed like former lover. The song kind of delivers like two kind of themes with the narrator, writing as like a tribute to a breakup, or like a narrator kind of addressing that former lover. because of a upcoming death or something.
Gotcha.
It is kind of a depressing song. It is,
Yeah.
but it's very catchy. You've definitely probably heard of it. It was on the radio.
I don't really listen to the radio very
I know,
often,
but
so
I'm
I
just
don't
saying, general
know.
audience has definitely probably heard it.
Oh
It
yeah.
didn't play super like that long. It was on earlier in the year, but I listened to this nonstop. It's a kind of a calming, um, very calming song, especially the her part of the song. So that
Nice.
was my number 8, Deathbed, Coffee for Your Head.
All right.
Number 7.
Number 7 for the list is Dynamite by BTS, which is like a K-pop group.
Yep.
My number 7 is Five and Dime by Hazel English off of her album Wake Up. This is actually an artist that I discovered this year, and I really loved this album. I had never listened to her before. I just kind of stumbled upon it. But it's basically about like a suffocating yet intoxicating relationship, and I really love the smooth guitar and the vocal delivery in this. It's very like relaxing, and the hook in the chorus is like impossible not to love. It's very catchy and like serene, and yeah, the whole sound of this album and this song specifically, I feel like if like it could have been on like more popular radio stations, it would have like really blown up because it just has like the most catchy sound
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
The formula for that.
Yeah, it was like an indie song, but it had like the
Yeah.
pop structure
Sure.
to it. But yeah, that's Five and Dime for my number 7.
All right, my number 7 is Detonate by Charlie XCX off of her How I'm Feeling album. It was written by A.G. Cook and Charlie XCX. This is another, actually, I really enjoy this album too. It's
Yeah.
very, Charlie XCX is, I haven't really listened to much of her before
Neither
this
have
album.
I, yeah.
But this album, it's definitely like, obviously pop, but I think her lyrics are very like different. Kind of reminds me of like the songs are kind of different sounding, kind of like a Lady Gaga, I think,
Yeah.
in a way. But I
She's got a very energetic like voice.
Yep.
Vocals.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening through this album actually, and this song uses like a lot of pop elements obviously to make it very upbeat, but the tone is actually like super like emotional. So it's a very emotional song. The song is essentially questioning why someone would love them. So, and it's a very like emotionally raw song to the pop upbeat, which this whole kind of album is, and I found that very fascinating, very like a very good listen through. So that was a Detonate by Charlie XCX for my number 7.
All right.
All right, number 6.
On to number 6 for the list is I Want You to Love Me by Fiona Apple. I've heard of this album. I actually heard a lot about this, but I have not listened to it yet. Been meaning to. So my number 6 is What Is It by Angel Olsen off of her album Whole New Mess. This song was actually originally released in 2019, and her album All Mirrors, but she basically like re-recorded that entire album, but in a slightly different style for Whole New Mess. So it's kind of cheating, but it's still a different album that came out this year.
Yeah, that's
so.
all right. I picked a song that wasn't even released technically this year, so
Yeah, I think it was for this one. They actually like went to an abandoned church or something and recorded the whole album. So it has like a very echoey, like big sound. It's really cool. But it's about a complex relationship where she felt like she was like just filling a void, and then the other person was also kind of filling a void. There wasn't really any like love in between them. And like I said, it has a really full sound with the acoustic guitar and like the more intimate vocals than the other version, because the other version has a lot of production, so it it kind of distorts some of the heart of the song and the vocals, and the melody is very like sweet and infectious, and I literally just love her voice. She has such like power behind her voice and range that it feels like it's almost like an instrument at points. Like she literally just like can make sounds with her voice that sound like instrumentals. It's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
But yeah, this version also features, like I said, less flashy production and more like the singer-songwriter techniques with like volume and sound dynamics. And I think it's like a lot more raw and real than the other version, to me at least. But yeah, that's what it is for my number 6.
All right, my number 6 is Shampoo Bottles by Peach Pit off of You and Your Friends. You hear this? You ever heard the song?
I've listened to that album like a million times.
All right, there we go.
Can't get any indie past me.
True. I haven't listened to the rest of this album. I just heard this song.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My next song is from that album.
Oh, nice. So the song has kind of a mellow. It's like very mellow song.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's how the rest of their album is, but
I mean, some of it.
this song particularly is a very mellow song.
They definitely have a mellow tone, but
Yeah.
not all of the songs sound mellow necessarily.
Gotcha. This song does though. This is a very like mellow song. Again, another not the lyrics are a little more. I think they're not happy lyrics. You know, it's not. It's about kind of someone moving on from a fling. Kind of going through the metaphor of the things that she left behind at his place. I love like the how was it described as indie surf rock.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good description of the kind of sound you're going to get.
It's very guitar centered. They have an amazing guitarist.
I also think it's very catchy though. So
Yeah.
like it is a very like I think it's a softer tone definitely song, but I also think it's a very catchy song. And that's I don't know. A lot of theme this year is definitely the softer toned kind of like deep, like, you know, all the lyrics being a little more emotional and really charged.
I actually I've listened to this album and their first album, which is called Being So Normal, I believe. But I didn't even realize this song came out this year. I just
Really?
I listened to it this year, but I didn't realize it came out this year also, because it came out I think in the beginning of the year at some point.
I think so.
But so when we were doing this list, I was like, oh, like that whole album, I love that. I'm gonna put that on my list.
No, I think this definitely has like a lot of my list. The theme, I guess I'd say my list is definitely nostalgic because there's a lot of songs that came out this year that sound a lot like other songs that I've like absolutely loved from farther past. This song is like very like I'm not even gonna call it basic, but it's very like basic indie sounding song.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like a familiar tone that I definitely enjoyed listening to quite a bit. A lot of my other songs, I'll explain why they're more nostalgic based sounding. So
I feel like this album too, it sounds very summery. Like it just instantly reminds me of summer. I think that's when I listened to it too, but like it has like, those kind of vibes.
Yeah, it was definitely like it was interesting because it's definitely a softer tone and kind of like a more, not super morbid, but a little more morbid of lyrically what it's about. But it's definitely like very catchy and very like kind of like, I don't know, you can't stop listening to it. So that's my number 6, Shampoo Bottles by Peach Pit. On to number 5, top 5.
All right, so number 5 for the list is I Know the End by Phoebe Bridgers, which you will hear more about, so we're going to move past that.
All right, is that your number 5 or no? Not yet?
No, not yet. My number 5 is Brian's Movie by Peach Pit, also off of the album You and Your Friends. So, yeah, this one is, it's actually about the main guy who wrote it, Neil. It's about how his parents met, and the lyrics kind of depict those events from the perspective of, like, one of his parents' friends, and how they're feeling like they don't want to lose their best friend to like a relationship. It's a really interesting concept.
That is interesting.
So it's kind of like he goes back in time and like recreates how his parents met, but then from a totally different perspective, which I think is kind of cool.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's apparently they revealed, I think in an interview, that the song was written while the band was on acid, so that's also hilarious.
Nice.
And it just has like a super crisp guitar layered with very like psychedelic wavy guitar at the same time. The chorus, like we said, is very catchy and has an amazing melody. And overall, it's really chill. And the guitar, I mean, their whole band is like, it's very guitar centered, and the guitar is always so complex. Like, I've tried to learn the songs, and it's just like impossible. But yeah, that's a great song. I love that whole album, obviously.
I'll have to check out the rest of the album.
Yeah, it's really good. But that's Brian's Movie for my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is off an album I already mentioned today. It's Strangers by Mount Joy off of Rearrange Us.
Yeah, I believe that's in my honorable mentions.
This song is just a really fun song. It was my favorite song off the album. I think people might have heard this song.
I don't know. I
I
can't
think
tell if
I
people
heard
have
it.
listened to this album or
I
not.
think I heard it on FM 1021.
Oh, okay.
So potentially it was on the radio.
Yeah.
It's a very like fun song.
Oh, it's not on
very
my honorable mentions. But...
I love how he's able to change his voice throughout this song too.
Yeah.
Um,
It's cool. Have you listened to the whole album?
yeah.
Yeah, it's cool how it transitions from the song before that into this song, because it's just like, it feels like it's seamless. Like you're in one song and all of a sudden you're in Strangers, and I think that was really cool too.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting, like, the whole album is very good, but this song there's parts and like I think you know what I'm like kind of talking about, where how he changes his voice to like I think it's right like
he hits like a higher register
and then gets like right back down, and it's very cool. It's a very cool part of the song, and it's very it's just a fun song. So that
whole album is just
it's fun. It's a fun album for sure, and
it's not necessarily like superficial or not deep, but it's still fun, which I think is what's so great about that album.
And that's Strangers by Mountjoy for my number 5.
All right.
On to number 4.
Number 4 for the list is Blinding Lights by The Weeknd.
Not surprising.
I don't know that song.
What?
I don't think I've heard it.
For the podcast, I'm glaring at her because I've heard that song a billion times this year. I don't know how you don't know that song.
I don't, like, the radio stations I listen to aren't like I don't listen to 103.7 or whatever, but...
Okay, what is your number 4?
Number 4. I have The Steps by Haim from their album Women in Music Part 3. So this is it kind of features a very bright, catchy tune, and it's about basically trying to repair a relationship with a partner who's kind of completely checked out of it. And I feel like the lyrics evoke both like bitterness and frustration, but also determination to kind of stay with kind of stick the relationship out. And the main person who wrote it, I think she writes all of their... Haim is like a group where it's like 3 sisters. That's like the whole band.
Okay.
So I think Danielle writes most of the lyrics, but she kind of described... There's one lyric in it that says like, "You don't understand me," and she sings it really beautifully, but she kind of describes that lyric as therapeutic. And I feel like the whole song kind of has that very like cathartic sound to it. It's very low key and kind of wailing at the same time, and the guitar riff in it is so simple, but it sounds like very iconic. I actually learned it like right after I heard this, because I was like, that sounds amazing. Sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. But yeah, their whole band has a very like LA like summer sounding. I don't know if you've listened to Haim before.
I haven't.
Yeah, it's really good. But it sounds very bright, and I absolutely love that. So that is The Steps for my number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Bloody Valentine by Machine Gun Kelly off of his album Tickets to My Downfall. It peaked at number 50 on the Billboard Hot 100. Is written by Machine Gun Kelly with Nicholas Alex Long, Mod Sun, and Travis Barker, who produced I think helped produce the whole album. Famous drummer, if you don't know who Travis Barker is.
Gotcha.
The song, this is my favorite album, I think, that came out this year.
Yeah.
This is the most nostalgic sounding like pop punk alternative music I've heard forever. It's like a nostalgic term for me. I didn't think you would hear this out of Machine Gun Kelly, who's more famously a rapper.
Yeah, it's definitely a surprise.
But it's definitely like an alternative rock album, and it's really good. I was obsessed with the song when it came out as a single. It's just this one's a good, like, a really, like, his lyrics are a little, I think, actually pretty serious. I'd say the lyrics are actually interesting in this whole album. I think they're like, the themes are a lot more hard hitting than what you would imagine them to be, but it's a more fun, like, pop punk kind of song with a little rock into it. It's a very fun, catchy song, and that is my number 4, Bloody Valentine by Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah, and you've played that song a lot. I'm like getting sick of it at this point. So number 3 for the list is People I've Been Sad by Christine and the Queens. And then my number 3 is Bug Eyes by Mountjoy from the album.
Oh, that was a good one. I did like
Rearrange
that
Us.
song
Yeah,
quite
this
a bit.
is
Yeah.
the first song off of the
Mhm.
album. It's probably my favorite. Rearrange Us is pretty close. I think that's in my honorable mentions. And then I also really love Strangers. Yeah, so to me, this album is probably one of the more like upbeat indie releases this year, in the face of all this like
Mhm.
craziness. And it's kind of a commentary on like, it's a commentary on emotional experiences revolving around love and like life. I love the lyrics, to live and die and see the world through someone else's eyes. I think that's like such a cool lyric. And it has such a great hook in the chorus where like the vocal delivery and the timing are just like incredible. And it starts off very calming and almost sad, but then it really becomes very powerful and upbeat when the drums come in. And
Mhm.
I think it's like I don't know if it's the pre-chorus or the actual chorus when it like just really like hits.
Yeah.
And I listened to this so much this summer. Like the whole album is very warm.
It is.
And it has that
is.
kind of
even
that
like the
feel to
cover.
it.
The cover is very
Yeah, it's
bright.
like
and
bright colors and blue
welcoming.
and yeah,
welcoming,
it's
yeah.
really I love this album. But Bug Eyes is my number 3.
All right, my number 3 is, you can't go when Taylor Swift released 2 albums in a year. You cannot pick at least one of them for your top 10 songs. So, mine's August, off of Taylor Swift, obviously off of Folklore, which was the first one. I liked Folklore a little better than Evermore.
Yeah.
This song kind of described this. See, this is why I found it nostalgic, since this sounded like, not like, didn't sound like, but the theme is very classic, like Taylor Swift. This song specifically, and kind of like describes kind of an ill-fated summer romance. You know, talking about August, and it kind of similar to like her, Tim McGraw. You know, very similar kind of vibe to it. I think it's a more mature. That's not a word, but more mature song. Definitely her voice, obviously, because I think Tim McGraw came out in 2006. So obviously,
Yeah.
but I think the theme is very similar to it, and yeah, this was very nostalgic feel.
Yeah, I feel
For
like the best part of these albums that they came out were like you could hear like she was actually more of a mature artist now. I think that was what really like set them apart. Obviously, it was a very different sound that she experimented with, but just like the tone of it and like the
tone and
lyrical,
lyrically, they were pretty
Yeah.
good.
you could just see it. Like I feel like before, like there was like the young Taylor Swift, because she always was kind of I mean, she started when she was super young, so she always kind of had that like image and like vibe around her. But then these albums, I think, really kind of
I think
from that.
they kind of definitely like encapsulated what I think she was trying to sound like for probably her whole career. Honestly,
maybe
I don't know.
experimented a
She's
lot,
trying to
though,
do a lot though, because I think it's a perfect mix between. I don't even know what you call it. Like, it's obviously like pop music, but I think it's not quite.
It's
like,
a little more like, it has a little kind of not indie, but
I don't know
like
what you. It's not
mainstream pop.
No, I would agree with that, and I just really enjoyed. This was my favorite song, I think, off the album. There's quite a few I liked.
I think August was my favorite off of that album. I liked Evermore a lot too. They didn't make my list, but
That's fair.
Honorable mentions, I think.
All right, well, that was August for my number 3 by Taylor Swift.
All right.
We're on to number 2.
Number 2 for the list is Savage Remix by Megan Thee Stallion featuring Beyonce. I can't believe the number 1 on this.
I'm excited.
Oh man, it's gonna be wild. All right, my number 2 is I Know the End by Phoebe Bridgers off of her album Punisher. So that was on the list. I don't know if it was number 5 or something, but yeah, this album is amazing. I feel like it's really blowing up. It has a lot of Grammy nominations, which is surprising for this kind of album, but I'm glad she got recognition because she's been doing some really good stuff. She's been in she has one solo album before this one, but then she's also been in like a couple different groups with other people. So I feel like she kind of is just dominating the indie scene right now. But this song, I Know the End, is like almost an apocalyptic folk ballad, which is as amazing and crazy as it sounds. It kind of shows off the singer-songwriter narrative abilities she has, and it kind of describes like a vision of the world that is like falling apart with references to American culture and like recent events, and it's a really cool song. For me, I loved a lot of the songs on this album. I think there's one of my honorable mentions as well, but this one got me because like the overall mood and like the lyrics are just amazing. It kind of towards the end of the song, she goes through like a sequence of images of her driving up the California coast, and then it's basically as like the world is ending, and it has this feeling of like calmness in whilst in chaos basically, which is really cool. And obviously her vocals are always so like unique and emotional, and I love that. So that is I Know the End for my number 2.
All right, my number 2 is another song off of Machine Gun Kelly's Tickets to My Downfall, and that is Lonely. The song is about his relationship with his both his father and his aunt, who both unfortunately passed away. I'm not sure when, but the song is kind of about how he had his relationship with them, kind of wishing he could have more time with them.
Yeah.
It's a very like emotional song, especially out of this album, and it's such a, but he still has that like pop punk kind of sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting song because I enjoyed it a lot, like because I think of how emotional it was and how surprising when you hear it is actually, is why I've listened to this song so many times this year. But it's a very interesting song, and he has it's a little more softer tone I think than the rest of the album, just on the nature of the lyrics, but
Yeah.
it still has that like classic like punk pop like rock kind of sound to it. So yeah, that was my number 2, Lonely by
Nice.
Machine Gun Kelly.
All right.
All right, honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. So my honorable mentions are Bad Decisions by The Strokes, which I really liked their new album. It was actually pretty good. The ones before this were like okay, but and then 'Tis the Damn Season by Taylor Swift, which is off of Evermore, I believe. Kyoto by Phoebe Bridgers, Rearrange Us by Mountjoy, and Man from the Magazine by Haim.
All right, mine are, I have 2 very basic pop songs because I've heard them so much and they're just stuck in my
They're
head.
just ingrained in your memory.
Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles,
Yeah.
Many Roads to Travel by Wilson Pickett, What's Poppin' by Jack Harlow, Break My Heart by Dua Lipa, and I Don't Know Why by NOTD.
All right.
All right.
On to number 1.
What is number 1 on the list? I'm so...
Do you have any guesses? It's a ridiculous song.
It's not. It's not like. It's not a Dua Lipa song or something.
No.
I don't know.
Okay. Number 1 for the list for 2020 is WAP by Cardi B.
Okay, that doesn't.
Featuring
I'm
Megan Thee
curious how they
Stallion.
how they made this list. That doesn't surprise me.
I don't know. Yeah.
The impressions alone that.
Like
song
it probably
had.
wasn't the most liked, but it was definitely the most popular. I feel like everyone
like
has
the most.
heard that
It
song.
had the most impressions, probably
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah,
So
definitely
that
made
makes sense.
an impact on 2020.
All right, what is your favorite song from 2020?
All right, my number 1 is "I'm Not My Season" by Fleet Foxes off of their album Shore. So this is probably my favorite album that came out this year. I really love this album. I had never really listened to Fleet Foxes before because some of their other albums are kind of harder to get into.
Okay.
This one's a lot more accessible, and it's really good. So this song kind of centers around the idea that time moves around you, and you're not necessarily is not necessarily tied to you. And it has a lot of like ocean and sailing imagery. The whole album is very like I don't even know how to explain it. It's kind of like naturey. It has like this whole atmosphere of nature and kind of the ocean as well. And the main singer, and I think the songwriter, Robin Pecknold, said that he wrote the lyrics based on a story his friend told them about helping someone with addiction. And then whilst they were telling him the story, he kept imagining a sailing lesson he had about how to save someone who went overboard at some point. So it's kind of like this amalgamation of different experiences. And it just has such a warm guitar and vocals that create a very calming and soft sound. I love the lyrics, "Time is not what I belong to, I'm not the season I'm in." And overall it's just an incredibly delicate sounding and very reassuring song. It's probably one of the more soft songs on the album. It's definitely not the single. I think the single was Can I Believe You?
Okay.
So that one is a little more upbeat, but amazing song. The whole atmosphere and like the mood that this song and the album creates are just incredible. But that is I'm Not My Season for my number one.
All right, my number one. It's no surprise. This is still off the album that I've already talked about. It is Forget Me Too by Machine Gun Kelly off of Tickets to...
Wow, is that your top three?
Top 1, 2, and 4.
1, 2, and 4, okay.
So this is featuring Halsey off of Tickets to My Downfall. This is, I think, the definition of like nostalgic pop punk anthem for me because it's very anthem-like.
Yeah.
Basically, the song's about his desire for a stable like relationship over kind of temporary affection from somebody, and I think his like back and like Halsey obviously burst into the song like so great. It's such a like anthem. It is. It's like the guitar.
I would love to hear her voice in that style. I've never heard this.
It's
song
really.
before.
I'll play it for you after we're done with the episode. It's actually very cool. It's an awesome song, but I just love the anthem. They're kind of do a little back and forth like towards when she comes into the song. It's very nostalgic for me. I enjoyed every second of the song. There's a video that I think Halsey tweeted out when they were showing it to whatever record studio he must be showing it. Machine Gun Kelly got on top of this board table and started like air guitaring.
That's hilarious.
So, it's such a like I was so surprised about this album, and it's easily probably my favorite album of the year. Granted, I didn't listen to a ton of new music. I did my best the last few weeks of trying to play catch up, and I think I hit a decent amount, but I really enjoyed how nostalgic this album made me feel and how much I loved every single song just about off the album. So that was my number one, Forget Me Too by Machine Gun Kelly featuring Halsey.
All right.
Let's run it back. Give the audience a little reminder what our top 10s were.
All right. So my number 10 was Circle the Drain by Soccer Mommy. My number 9 was Impossible Weight by Deep Sea Diver. My number 8 was Zombie Girl by Adrian Laniker. My number 7 was Five and Dime by Hazel English. My number 6 was What It Is by Angel Olsen. My number 5 is Brian's Movie by Peach Pit. Number 4 is The Steps by Haim. Number 3 is Bug Eyes by Mount Joy. Number 2 is I Know the End by Phoebe Bridgers. And my number 1 is I'm Not My Season by Fleet Foxes. Fleet Foxes.
My number 10 is Rearrange Us by Mount Joy. My number 9 is Without Me by Halsey. My number 8 is Deathbed Coffee for Your Head by Poofoo and Beat a Bad Doobie. Oh, I think I said that better than the first time. Number 7 is Detonate by Charlie XCX. Number 6 is Shampoo Bottles by Peach Pit. Number 5 is Strangers by Mount Joy. Number 4 is Bloody Valentine by Machine Gun Kelly. Number 3 is August by Taylor Swift. Number 2 was Lonely by Machine Gun Kelly. Number 1 was Forget Me 2 by Machine Gun Kelly.
All right. That wraps up our 2020 review episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Songs Untold.
At
the
Songs
links
Untold,
will be
yes.
in the description if you can't understand what I'm saying. If you want to listen to any of these songs, they will be on our podcast playlist, which is New Old Songs Untold podcast playlist on Spotify.
Next week.
Yes, next week we are planning on doing Tom Petty, so we're going to listen to all his songs. And it won't just be Tom Petty, it'll be like Tom Petty / Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, kind of just combining the two.
I'm pretty excited actually to do that because I've been wanting to dive into Tom Petty's kind of discography.
Yeah,
for
that
a
should
while,
be fun. He's got some great songs. So yeah, we'll see you next week, and thank you for listening.